It started with a scream, the kind that slices right through your morning coffee. High-pitched, startled, dripping with disbelief. And let me tell you, it wasn't me or my wife or even the cows. No, it was some lady sun hat and all trying to steady herself atop a pink flamingo float holding onto her mimosa for dear life, as one of my Angus cows nudged her right off and straight into my cattle pond. Algae mud cow drool the works. This was a woman who 5 minutes earlier had been barking orders into a megaphone and announcing brunch to a crowd of HOA guests who somehow had no idea they were trespassing on my land. She had no clue I'd let the cows in on purpose. Not yet. It all kicked off 2 days before that wet, unplanned baptism, when I noticed a little parade of unfamiliar cars lining the gravel trail out behind my barn. It happens lost drivers mail folks who mistake the place for a public road. Only these weren't delivery vans. These were Range Rovers, glossy SUVs, Benzes, even a Tesla or two, all lined up like they were waiting for a red carpet. I counted 14, maybe more. I followed the noise, music, laughter, someone splashing. Rounding the bend, I just stopped. My cattle pond had been transformed. You ever see those ridiculous reality shows, the ones with inflatable unicorns and tiki bars? Picture that, but real. Plastic flamingos drifting in the water, folding chairs everywhere, sun hats, white linen dresses. There was even a harpist. And at the center, barking out orders, was Karen. I'd recognize her anywhere. Big sunglasses, clipboard, like a badge of honor voice that could split a boulder. Karen self-declared HOA president of the new neighborhood across the road, even though her so-called authority ended at the blacktop nowhere near my fence. She carried herself like the queen of the Derby. When she noticed me standing there, probably mouth hanging open, she just smiled, that brittle, tight-lipped grin you give toddlers when they're holding scissors. "Oh, hi," she chirped as if she'd been expecting me. "Isn't this weather just divine?" She gestured toward a big banner tied to my fence. Serenity Springs Bridal Brunch. I blinked. My cattle pond, now a resort, was hosting a pre-wedding party for folks I'd never met, and not one of them had thought to ask. Karen strode over heels, sinking in the mud, and handed me a laminated pamphlet. Brunch menu, paddle boat schedule, photo ops, harpist performance, and my personal favorite, yoga in the hayfield. My hayfield. She explained they'd only be there a few hours, would clean up, and I should be grateful for the exposure. I just stared. She thought my silence was surrender. That was her first mistake. I walked away, polite as you please, back to the barn and called my old friend Marcia, a wedding planner with a taste for drama. After she finished cackling, Marcia gave me the best advice I'd hear all week. Let it play out. Document everything. And when the time comes, let your cows do the talking. So I did. For the next day and a half, I watched them set up, treating my place like a stage set. Fairy lights in my trees, portable toilets by the old silo, folding chairs, pastel balloons, little paper lanterns, you name it. They even tried to hang fabric off the grain silo, called it rustic chic. Karen supervised it all, flitting around in a visor, pointing at things like a director at tech rehearsal. And just in case they put up makeshift cow barriers, plastic fencing, some string, a little ribbon, as if that would keep a determined heifer at bay. Sunday morning rolled around. The whole place reeked of perfume and hairspray, two things my cows hate almost as much as leaf blowers. Karen started the day with a rousing speech about unity and community vision. Meanwhile, I quietly opened the gate to the pasture. Didn't need to say a word. The cows spotted that open gate, smelled the brunch buffet, and came down the hill in a slow-motion stampede like fuzzy juggernauts on a holy mission. First one in the pond nudged an inflatable peacock aside, then stepped right in. The rest followed, sniffing mimosas, licking sunscreen off handbags. Karen's face twisted in horror as her carefully curated event became a muddy mooing free-for-all. Guests shrieked. Somebody tried to rescue a sun hat. The bride's veil was snatched up by a curious calf. Karen predictably snapped. She demanded I control my animals. I just smiled, and in front of all her guests calmly reminded her this was my land, my cows, and hate to break it to her, she was trespassing. She dialed 911, reporting a cow attack. I can only imagine the dispatcher's face. When the deputy showed up, he was clearly fighting a grin. Karen tried to argue HOA aesthetic jurisdiction. The deputy asked for paperwork. She reached for her clipboard, now soaking wet thanks to a particularly playful heifer. He turned to me, asked if I wanted to press charges. I declined. See, I wasn't finished. Revenge was coming, but not the courtroom kind, the homegrown poetic kind. By the time Karen's guests limped off, shoes ruined, hair a mess, my cows were having the best day of their lives. One was chewing on the hem of the bride's sash, another sniffing the harpist's case. The yoga instructor was hiding behind the buffet. I leaned on the fence, sipped my coffee, and let Karen scream herself hoarse. After all, sometimes the best way to deal with entitlement isn't to argue, it's to let the cows handle your RSVP list. You'd think that'd be the end. Nope. Karen, bless her stubborn heart, doesn't retreat, she retaliates. 3 days later, I spot a drone buzzing low over my fence. It hovers, dips circles, the cows, then zips back to the HOA side. Hours later, the HOA email is lighting up with complaints, noise pollution, methane clouds, even a drone video of my bull doing his business with the caption, "Environmental biohazard in progress." Funny until I get a letter from the nuisance abatement officer, Karen's handiwork, no doubt. But I was ready. Called Dallas, my cousin conveniently employed by the USDA, and he helped me get every last cattle record, manure log, and water test in order. When the inspector showed up, Dallas greeted him with a folder of compliance thicker than the local phone book. The inspector took one look, snapped a few photos, and muttered about wasting a drive before leaving, folders stuffed with proof. But Karen just upped the ante. Now she's gathering signatures for a cow-free zone petition, passing out flyers with photoshopped images of my cows stampeding through backyards. Even local news caught wind, so I called in a favor. Ethan, my buddy from the local station, brought a camera crew and did a segment, Farmer Fights Back. Cows versus Karens. It aired that night. Social media went wild. Donations came in for my cows. Even the mayor shared a photo of himself with one of my heifers. Karen tried to spin it as fake news. Even her niece posted a TikTok calling it the wildest brunch she'd ever survived. So I did what any sane person would: hosted a moo at the Moon Community Night food trucks, a live band, cow, meet and greets, bounce houses. Kids loved it. Karen hovered in the shadows with binoculars. I made sure the paper got a shot of the banner, "Respect the Herd." Next day, Karen sent a legal threat. Dallas forwarded it to the state AG board. 2 days later, Karen got a letter back. Any further harassment of a working farm could result in fines. Now, most folks would take the L, maybe buy a houseplant and try Pilates. Not Karen. Her next move, she convinced the lot owner next door to consider selling. I saw the for sale sign, "Scenic Waterfront Views," and my blood ran cold. There's only one waterfront around here, and it's my pond. I made a call. Turns out the lot owner, Mr. Jameson, was my old hay supplier. He'd seen the news. "For you," he said, $1 and a steak dinner. Deal closed the next morning. I put up my own sign, "Private Property. Cows may approach without warning." Even painted a cartoon cow to keep it friendly. Karen, never one to take a hint, responded with a decorative fence, fairy lights, and a sign, "Coming soon, Garden Pavilion." She even hosted a preview picnic by the fence, loudly pitching plans for sunrise yoga and poetry readings. So I got creative, invited the local paintball club to use my land behind the fence. Every weekend, kids and teens blasted away at hay bales, paint flying, cows watching with mild interest. Karen called the sheriff. Sheriff shrugged. Everything was legal. Her last gasp was to try the legal route again, this time petitioning the county to declare my pond a community water feature. Argued it impacted community aesthetic integrity. I couldn't believe it. But you can't let nonsense stand unchallenged, so Dallas helped me gather every old map deed and inspection going back 30 years. At the zoning board hearing, Karen put on a show, PowerPoint and all. I just handed over the evidence. The board ruled unanimously the pond was private agricultural and she'd best stop harassing or face legal action herself. Foreclosure, not revenge. I threw one last party by the pond, Moo Fest. Invited everyone, even the mayor, even the zoning board. Cows posed for photos. Kids hugged calves. The infamous flamingo float made one more appearance, firmly anchored on dry land this time. Karen didn't show, but plenty of her former supporters did. Several apologized. Some brought brownies. As dusk fell, I leaned on my fence, watched the moon shimmer on the water, and felt a peace I hadn't known in months. A couple weeks later, Karen's house hit the market, peaceful neighborhood with pond views, though the listing photos mysteriously cropped out the fence, the paintball range, and the barn mural of Melandia. Rumor was she moved to a gated community on the other side of the county somewhere with rules but no cows in sight. I wished her well. I mean it. Because here's what you learn wrestling with folks like her. You can fence your lawn, fake a smile, build a platform to chase a view. But you can't fake belonging. Not here, not on this land, not where every boot print and every cow has left a mark. As the last of the Moo Fest guests waved goodbye and the night settled in, I sat on my porch sipping tea and watched the flamingo float spin in lazy circles, nudged by a gentle brown nose. It struck me, just as karma, call it what you want. Sometimes it doesn't look like a courtroom or a fine. Sometimes it looks like a muddy pond, a stubborn herd, and a community that chooses to stand with you when it counts. So let me ask you, where's the line between protecting your own and playing power games? When does community cross the line into control? Would you have fought back or just let it go? Let me know in the comments. Share your thoughts on justice entitlement, or if you've ever had your own Karen story. Because if there's one thing I've learned out here, it's this. You can push a cow, but you'd better be ready for the splash.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video của mình.